Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
All right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast with Kevin and Chuck. Well, today we're going to talk about knives. Maybe I was reading some articles, and maybe it's actually not a bad idea to bring a knife to a gunfight. It turns out we're going to turn the world upside down, because it turns out you might have a better success rate with a knife. The FBI, now these stats are a little older, were from 2015, but the FBI said that 10% of people shot die from their wounds. All right, 10%. Now, 30% of people who are attacked by a knife are killed by their wounds. 30% versus 10% die by their wounds. So that's a pretty significant number. Another thing, knives, they don't have like a line of fire. You don't need to be kind of in that lined up appropriate space because you have such a broad angle and sweep and, so much movement with your hands. You can really, kind of get around and do what you got to do. Believe it or not, they were talking about like, close range shooting, in your mind, you're like, well, if only 10% are hitting, that's because, people are taking 10 shots from far away and whatever like that. Turns out in the study with police, between 3 feet and 6 feet shootings, only 1 out of 4 bullets actually hit their target. Could you imagine? Yet 3 feet away from 3 to 6 feet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's how it's funny. There was a story I read a while back. A cop goes and knocks on the door, and this was a news story. I mean, I saw it on the news. It wasn't, like hearsay or whatever. And the cop knocks on the door. Lady comes to the door, and he's like, "Yeah, I hate you, whatever. We're going to take you to jail or something." He acts aggressive and threatening the cop. The dog comes out of the background and starts coming at the cop. The cop puts out his hand to stop the dog and holds it up like he's, about to win the Heisman Trophy.
Mm-hmm.
And then shoots at the dog, ends up missing the dog, and shoots a hole through his hand.
Ooh.
And these are the kind of things that, a knife, you use your hands every day. You're in control of your hands. You know where they're going to move and what's going to happen. Apparently, when people use guns, it's not always the case that you're in control. Somehow you're out of place. Now I know you're like, well, my hand is working the gun and that's just a tool, but apparently something's going wrong here, So
right.
There is some kind of disconnect that happens. And believe it or not, knives don't usually miss, because one of the things about knives is as you're approaching the target, your brain and your hand are making calculations and adjustments. And you're correcting, and you're also correcting as the person's moving away or dodging from it. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot more, we'll say, follow through with a knife. So that makes it so much more valuable. Go ahead.
There's certain advantages to firearms, specifically when it comes to handguns versus knife fighting. Though handguns, the benefit is that you can shoot somebody from a distance. You don't have to be right next to somebody. But at a panic situation where people pull out the handgun, it's very easy to fire before you're in the correct position. Like you were saying with the knife, you're making calculated adjustments to where that knife's going throughout. But a lot of the time, people with a handgun will pull it out and they'll be right next to somebody. right next to the person they're dealing with, because they pull it out in a panic situation where something went wrong, and they suddenly have to pull it out. But there's no distance created in a situation like that. I know that a lot of police officers, they carry handguns in the United States. They carry handguns every day, but they only qualify to use those handguns once or twice a year. And if you're only qualifying once or twice a year, that's not a big deal as long as you're going to the range. But a lot of these guys don't go to the range aside of those 1 or 2 times a year that they have to use it. And they spend, 3 or 4 hours practicing every 6 months or every 12 months. But a lot of them really don't know what the fuck they're doing. And I'm not just saying that about cops. I'm saying that about everybody that carries a handgun. There's a lot of people carrying a handgun that don't know what the fuck they're doing.
People with their concealed carry aren't necessarily using it or have used it frequently or often or ever. I had somebody come over yesterday because it was actually a friend of my wife, and she was like, hey, I have my concealed carry permit and I've had my gun for about a year and I carry it everywhere I go. I really didn't feel comfortable at the shooting range. Could I come over and use your guys' shooting range and try it out and do it at a more casual, comfortable setting? And when we got talking, she had shot 7 bullets in her entire life and she'd been carrying over a year.
Right.
And I feel like that's a large percentage of, she like quadrupled her, shooting in one day, with her lifetime. And actually probably more than that, probably 20, 30 times. But anyway, that's the kind of thing. People aren't getting the practice. Plus, even though shooting at the range and dealing with the stress of in-person and immediate and stuff, it's heightened. Now, don't get me wrong here. I think if you put the time in the range, you can become more accurate and more efficient with that handgun than you'll ever be with a knife, as far as more effective. I think also learning how to really master a knife, you can be, because that's the thing over and over again, consistently with survival, training and practice is going to, win the day every time. The guy who doesn't practice with the knife, or doesn't practice with the knife, but the guy practices with the gun, the guy with the gun's probably going to win. The guy who doesn't practice with, vice versa with the gun, but the guy with the knife is somewhat trained, he's probably going to win. But it almost looks like with the knife, you're at an equal playing field. To average, person to person, statistics say you're at an equal to slight advantage with the knife for close combat.
Right. And I will also say it depends a lot on the handgun and it depends a lot on the knife. A little shiv that you made out of a toothbrush that you're planning on sticking somebody with, and you got somebody with a 9mm and a full magazine. There's a big difference there. But a Bowie knife, Jim Bowie said that he would be more comfortable being in a fight with a knife with somebody with a gun. He'd rather have a knife than a gun. And there were situations that he was in where he was in knife fights with people that had guns, and he killed the person before they shot him, or he got shot and then killed him. But, that was at a time period where your pistol, was a muzzle loaded pistol. You had one shot. And if you fucked up, you fucked up. Got a little bit better of an opportunity if you have a revolver, if you have a handgun with a magazine in it.
I think with the adrenaline and the excitement, it's actually fairly common for people to pull the trigger before they seem to really get on target. Right. There's a book, I think it's called How to Shoot Straight and Tell the Truth or something like that. And it's a great book. And I had mentioned it not that long ago, but one of the things in there is that, most people who shoot, if they miss, they say, later when being interviewed that they don't remember seeing the front sight of their gun on their target, aligned. Mm-hmm. And that should be what's going through your head is front sight press. Like you don't pull the trigger until you can see, your target lined up with your front sight. Now he said it, you didn't even need the back of it, like just your instinct and practicing shooting. You should know to kind of line it up with everything. But just having that focus on that front sight and seeing your target with it is going to make a big difference. So, but that's the kind of thing. So, but the other reason, one second, the other thing I would say is there are so many more places you can carry a knife that you cannot carry a gun. And that's going to be a huge advantage, especially for some of you guys that live in other countries, or some of you guys who live in, communist cities in America, things like that. If things are really, oppressive there, that's something, that now I know in England, you guys, I think you're down to spoons now. Is that how you're able to defend yourself, with a spoon?
Yeah, it seems questionable about whether you can have a butcher knife in your kitchen in England lately. Mm-hmm. Especially in London, it seems like they're really cracking down on people carrying even pocket knives. To me, I see a pocket knife as a tool, not a weapon. I use a pocket knife every day in my life, but I wouldn't want to be in a fight with my pocket knife.
Right. Well, I think even in communist California, you can get away with 3.5-inch blade. So I know in New York, I think it's also 3.5 inches in the city. But I think they said, the palm of your hand is what they always taught us in Boy Scouts was what was legal as far as that kind of thing. But
that's actually in New York State. That's actually if you're under 18. If you're over 18, you can carry a sword on you, I guess. So there's no real stipulation on the length of the blade.
And California, you must be able to carry, because I remember watching Sons of Anarchy, and didn't they all have knives on their belt that were, kind of like 4-inch blade?
It's not like they're criminals used to breaking law or anything, but I'm not sure how accurate that TV show is.
Oh, okay. All right. Now I cut you off. Can you remember what the heck you were going to say? Or,
well, what I'm saying is that there are people that practice with the hip draw and the quick draw, and we're not talking about those guys. If you're investing, 10 hours a week, every week for years, practicing your quick draw and your shooting and your target practice and all that sort of stuff, we're not talking about that guy. Yeah. We're talking about somebody that has a firearm, but doesn't spend, 10 hours every week practicing with it. And that hip draw firing is very, very effective if you're competent and trained with it.
And I think that's a big part of it, is the fact that the concealment and the safety issues required with a gun are so much different than what's required with a knife. People seem to be able to get their hands on a knife and get a knife out a whole lot faster, just based on how you're able to carry it and where you're able to carry it, as far as concealment and also just for safety. Like, most cops, I mean, I guess it's different with Glocks and stuff now, but you remember they used to you'd have the strap, like especially the 1911s and stuff. They would have the strap under the hammer kind of thing, so the gun can't accidentally discharge, and yet they could leave it, off, loaded for safety. Well, just all those steps are steps that somebody with a knife doesn't have to take. And as soon as you feel uncomfortable, you can easily have that knife, in your hand, and sometimes even halfway open kind of thing if it's a folder, and ready to get out. Whereas, and sometimes a lot of people are like, yeah, I can put my hand on my gun and be ready to go, without it being visible. Then good for you. You found a great way to carry it. But there's a lot of guys that don't carry it that way. And that's all I'm saying. I'm just saying, typically, there's less steps in getting a knife out and effective than there is in getting a gun out and effective. Right. That's all I'm throwing out there on that.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to knife fighting, you have a knife, your opponent has a handgun or has a knife. If there's a handgun involved and you've got the knife, you need a couple of things ahead of time planned out. So one, you want to make sure that your tactical knife is sharp as fuck. You don't want to be, jabbing somebody or slicing on somebody with a dull blade, because it's not going to be as effective as something that's really honed sharp. You want to keep your knife between you and the opponent. If the other person's carrying a knife, you want to keep your hand with the knife. You want to keep it moving in kind of an erratic way. You don't want to be just going up and down or doing figure eights, because you don't want that other person to be able to time where your knife's going to be and be able to push you to the side so they can stick you first. Mm-hmm. Main thing you want to do with a knife is go for, artery. So you want to go for the neck. You want to go for the artery inside your leg, the femoral artery. For some reason, I can't say that. You want to go for the inside of the bicep or the chest.
Or the wrist.
But you don't want to, or the wrist. You don't want to leave yourself open, by swinging wildly at somebody, trying to stick them in the chest where they can just move to the side and stick you. You want to
honestly, your move is to really wait for them to strike or something they're sticking out.
Right.
For them to bring the part to you rather than you lunging in and opening yourself up. When they go to strike, you know what you're dodging and avoiding, and that's when you have your chance because they're already extended and out. And that might be like typically, like for the most part, I like to assume that we're not all like street thugs and going after people or whatever. So we're going to assume that they have some kind of weapon. If they have a gun or a knife or something threatening, a bat, a club, a crowbar, and they're waving it at you, maybe even a rock, and they're waving it at you, when their arm's out, that's perfect opportunity for you to be slashing at their wrist from either side.
Right. And
because that way they're already extended, and so you don't have to worry about them jabbing in on you, and you can get at their extended hand. Whereas we hope that they're not going for your hand at the same time, and obviously you're reacting and moving accordingly. But those are your opportunities, for you to start striking at the wrist or like that. Or better, if, they lunge at you and you're able to somewhat deflect, with your one hand, then that's when you're going in for your armpits, your neck, your, thigh, that kind of thing. And those opportunities present themselves. Typically, when you're fighting with against a person with a weapon, having your weapon hand out is more the way, and then your other hand kind of up. And a lot of people say to kind of keep your other hand near your shoulder to kind of protect your neck, and able to,
and then you
swing
can
out
use that offhand. Yeah, you can use that offhand. A lot of people, I know that a lot of people, when they get in those sort of situations, say a knife fight, handgun, whatever the situation is, they think of their only weapon as that weapon. Yes. You've still got your entire body, and you have to be able to move on your feet, and you have to be able to use your offhand to defend yourself. So when you have a knife and you're in a knife fight, don't think of yourself as only being able to strike with the knife. You can kick somebody, you can grab somebody. There's a lot of other things that you can do, and a lot of people focus in only on the weapon they use. When Bruce Lee was talking about being in a fight with somebody with a knife, he said it's simple, because that person only has one weapon when you have 4 or 5. So be conscientious of that when you're in a situation like that. The only weapon you have, or you don't only have a knife at your disposal. That's one of the weapons that you have. And it's an effective weapon. And if it's sharp and you can just cut somebody, you're already starting to win the fight, because as they lose blood and as they're going to lose speed, and they're going to start panicking. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to get sliced open and then have to continue a knife fight.
Yeah. No, that's it. You want to bring your game, you want to, strike and slash. But like I said, a lot of times you kind of want them to expose themselves. If their arm's already reached out, you don't have to worry about them coming further kind of thing. And you're stepping back, but you want to have your reach so that, you can slash at their wrist or their extended arm and get them, cut them up. Well, you're able to keep moving, but you want to be light on your feet and bouncing back. Things like a boxer, and always kind of, put your weight so that you're able to move and react and be defensive instead of somebody sweeping your leg. Yeah. I mean, that's it. Bruce Lee, that's a big thing. He's like, I got my hands, I got my feet, I got my head, whatever it is, I have options. He's got the one knife, and that's huge. You got to, I guess, think for a second. People get so focused. I mean, that's even problems in life. People get so focused on, well, this is it, and this is what I need to do because this is how you handle that. And they don't take that step back and look at the bigger picture. Like, what are all my options? What can I do here? And that's why it's so important for training. That's why it's so important to go through these things, have these discussions. That's why a podcast like this really helps. I mean, that's one of the benefits and one of the reasons I really felt like we needed to do this podcast was it just fills your head with different ideas. No way does it mean, hey, this is the only way or the way that it should be done. This means, hey, you may not have considered that I could carry something else besides a gun. Or, hey, I didn't consider, maybe I could really master my ninja stars or whatever. I mean, there's just a million things, your nunchucks. Maybe you need to learn staff form. There was an old video when I was a kid, this guy, Paulie Zink, with his staff form. This guy looked like Mr. Rogers, like just total
I remember
nerd.
That. Yep.
Yeah,
I remember him. He was he was such a nerdy looking guy. He had glasses and balding.
Yep. Pick up a stick and destroy anybody, And he's disarming people with knives, guns, whatever, and just like amazing. And
he looks like an accountant.
Right, exactly. And it's just, the idea is to see things, just consider things from different perspectives and start to look at the world differently. And that's why, we hope to bring, not rehash the same bullshit that everybody else does. We want to bring some new ideas you may not have considered, as far as water treatment and things like that. And, everything. Where am I going to get food? How am I going to, do long-term food storage? We want to bring different ideas and different approaches of how you can do things instead of the most traditional way. But we also want to cover the traditional ways in case people don't know. And that's important, for you to just start to think and look outside, what your normal world is. Because the more information you have can be huge. There was that movie with, with Hannibal and one of the Baldwins. And I think the one who's the biggest asshole. That Baldwin, and they go out. I guess one of them was married to like Michelle Pfeiffer, not in real life, because otherwise it would have been the other one. I think it was Hannibal was, and what's Hannibal's name, Kevin? Why does it elude me?
Hannibal Buress? Is that who you're talking about?
No,
I don't think I know what you're talking about.
Oh, the guy who eats people.
Oh, Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
Hannibal the Cannibal. All right.
What's the actor?
Anthony.
Right. Yeah, Hopkins. No,
right.
Is it Hopkins?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. All right. So it's him and the Baldwin guy, the one who's on
Alec Baldwin.
Alec, yeah, the jerky one. And so the one's married to like a gorgeous chick who is, I think, Michelle Pfeiffer. And so anyway, Hannibal is supposed to be a well-read, scholarly guy. And whereas, Alec Baldwin's younger, somewhat fit, and considers himself, healthy and worldly and has practical knowledge. Whereas Hannibal has all the, read books and worldly knowledge. And they end up going out and they're in a plane crash together, the two guys. They're out looking for something. And Alec Baldwin sees it as his chance to like make it look like an accident that the other guy died so he can steal the young pretty wife, And, and basically the one uses his knowledge of different things Anthony Hopkins to switch it around and basically defend himself and play the game right. So you have to see how it plays out. I'm not gonna ruin the whole thing,
Edge
but
is the
it's
name of the movie.
It's what?
The Edge is the name of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
And and that's the thing is they try different, things, but it's basically like putting mind and knowledge against, practical, skills. But the idea is obviously the combination. We just talked about, knowing about guns, but if you don't go ever use it, then you're going to have issues. Knowing about knives. Now, I will say in the defense of the knife is something that instinctively, like I kind of touched on with you use your hands every day, instinctively, a lot of things are going to be more intuitive than using a gun instinctively.
Right.
And so I think it's something you can pick up more as a novice with no training whatsoever and have better success. So that's something to be aware of. But, like I said, I think, in the end, I think that the gun can kind of win if you're going to do the training. But I think it's something to consider and add to your arsenal. Instead of making it a one or the other, it should be an additional tool. And again, it does give you more access to places that you might not be able to, carry a knife, plus improvised weapons. And I have to point out, the knife is the silent killer. And see, when you got to take out the bad guys and nobody knows, that's the trick, right?
If you have a wide enough
rear naked choke, but anyway,
there you go. Yep. If you have a wide enough knife, wide enough blade, you can stick somebody in the chest and cut off their oxygen so they can't scream. You stick them in the right spot. You got to hit where the windpipe, where the lungs come together and lead up to the windpipe. If you got skills, man, just stick it right across.
But you just take their head clean off in one motion, they don't say shit.
You mean like O.J. Simpson did with his wife? Allegedly?
Exactly. Allegedly. The glove don't fit.
Yeah, that's right, man. So what I would say ultimately, though, is spend 5 minutes. Spend 5 minutes with a knife. Make sure that your knife is sharpened. I've got a blade here, or a sharpening stone that I keep in my kitchen. I keep all my kitchen knives sharp because, cutting tomatoes and things like that are ridiculous with a dull knife.
It is ridiculous with a dull knife. I'm pretty sure that's the only reason my wife married me is because of I keep the knife sharp.
That's it, man. Any knife that you're carrying with you, you should be conscientious of the blade. You use your pocket knife for cutting open cardboard boxes and doing whatever it is you do with your knife, but you got to sharpen it up and keep it sharp. It's a dull knife is useless.
Now, it's funny. I had this great joke I was going to deliver and I missed it, but I'm gonna try it here now. So, what I would say is that I know that you don't need much practice and skill with a knife in order to be able to cut and be effective, because I cut myself all the freaking time.
That's right, man. It's easy. It's so
I was
easy.
hearing your story and I'm like, wait, I was going to drop that one. And no, but there you go. So, shit, I can stab myself without even trying. So, and I haven't shot myself.
Even O.J. Simpson cut himself when he was allegedly killing his wife and Ron Goldman,
And he wasn't even there. Right.
He wasn't even there, and it still happened.
He was able to stab himself. Well, he wasn't even there. That's how good it is. That's how effective.
Either, he said he broke it. He cut it on a broken piece of glass, but whatever. Right. Either way,
facts, evidence. I don't know. Doesn't mean anything. And apparently not facts. Apparently, it's just how you paint it in a courtroom and start yelling about gloves. But whatever. Yeah. And if you pay off cops to lie, I think that was a thing.
And one of the cops recorded saying racist shit. So
yeah,
if you're a cop, don't get caught on recording saying the N-word.
No, that's a negative
recommendation. Yeah,
or at least don't arrest N-words people after that.
Right. Exactly. Now we're running up on the elections here. Getting close.
All right.
It's getting close.
You're excited. Now, we
And
actually have in my state, we have early voting, and you could be out voting right now.
yeah, actually,
No, I think it's Sunday. I think it's Monday through Friday. You could be voting, but
mine
you
started
might be
Saturday
listening to this
in our area.
podcast on Monday,
Mhm.
and so
Right.
then that would work out.
And go
on.
get the early ballot in. But you know, a lot of stuff has been going on lately. You know, and if you asked me 4 years ago or whatever, if you said in 2020 that stock market would be, you know, dropping, pandemic would be going on, everybody be locked down, there'd be protests and riots, and people would be burning police stations, and cops would be shooting everyone, and there'd be wildfires all over the Northwest, and Kim Jong-un would somehow die and then get resurrected, and there would be murder hornets. You know, there's more murder hornets now. They found another nest in the U.S.
I thought they just found the first nest. No, there's multiple nests.
Well, this is the second. This is the first nest. The second murder hornet, though.
Yes.
None of this shit would surprise me. I kind of expect all this shit to happen. I expect 2021 to be just as bad, if not worse. You know, but all this stuff is going on, and then you've got Donald Trump up there talking about how the only way we're going to lose this election is if the election is rigged. Really? That's the only way? That's the only way you're going to lose? Because it seems like a lot of shit has been fucked up, and the person that everybody always blames is the president. I mean, this is some of this stuff should have been caught a little bit earlier, and in my opinion. And if you're going to vote for Donald Trump because you love Donald Trump, that's fine. If you're going to vote for Donald Trump because you love, because you're worried Joe Biden is going to take your gun rights away, well, let's not pretend that Donald Trump hasn't passed legislation on gun control.
That is true.
The inflation is out of control right now because they just keep printing money and sending it out to everybody.
Yeah, I hate to say it. I've been watching a lot of the economic stuff, and realistically, we're already starting to see it. And you're in denial if you're not seeing huge inflation in areas. One of the things, it really doesn't matter who wins the election as far as inflation happening. It's gonna happen, and you're gonna start to see it more and more in the next couple of months. And you really need to kind of plan your budget around that. Inflation is real, and it's gonna be a big thing coming up. Think about just when you go to like Lowe's and you buy 2x4s that were $2.40 in January and are now like $7.15 for a 2x4. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I just bought I was just building new fence. I got some ducks, so I'm building a new fence, and it was out of control, man. It was crazy how expensive lumber was. Same thing with meat. Go buy a ham. Look at the prices of ham right now. Ridiculous.
Look at the price of ham.
Same thing.
And I can hit one home that you guys have all seen and know damn well I'm right. Go buy bullets.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yep.
Inflation.
Good luck on that. Good luck even finding some.
Yeah. No, it's everywhere. It's coming up. Stuff's getting, real serious. And it's always weird because you're like, oh, well, then I'll have a lot of stuff to sell. Well, guess what? If people aren't making the money, they aren't spending it either to buy your shit. It's just new products. It's going to be the necessities that are going to be the things. Now, building materials, if they're going up, guess what? To get a new house, it's going to cost you. To put that addition on your house, to fix that leaky roof, these things are going to cost you. So start to plan.
The value of my house, the value of my house has gone up $50,000 in the past 6 months. And that's partially inflation. It's partially people getting out of the city. But, that's not the only thing that's going through the roof right now. New construction, old construction, any sort of housing, food, unless you're buying ramen noodles, man, things are really going up. My grocery bill has doubled in the past couple of months. I know almost everybody else's has. And it's, there's a lot of shit going on right now. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're a Republican and you're voting for Donald Trump, you're not voting for a Republican. You're voting for Donald Trump. There's a big difference between the two there. And you say, well, Donald Trump at least is not Joe Biden. And that argument doesn't fucking work with me because fuck Joe Biden too. You know, we've got two terrible options here.
Yes.
And neither one of them I'm not going to be happy when either one of them is elected. And personally, at this point, I'm done. I'm done with it. I'm done with Trump. I'm done with Biden. I'm voting third party this year. I know that, you know, a lot of people are saying, you can't do it. You can't do it. You got to. No, I don't have to do shit. All I got to do is stay black and die. You ain't got to do nothing. All I want to do is make it a point that I'm not voting for either of these assholes this year. And, you know, I don't think anybody else is thinking the same way I am, but I'm just putting it out there. I feel like Donald Trump has been a dumpster fire, and we're looking at a choice between, you know, one old geriatric pervert versus another old geriatric pervert. And that's basically what we're looking at here.
Yeah. No, that's not a bad assessment. You know, Joe Jorgensen maybe has you guys excited. If you don't believe that Trump's hurt your guns, I do believe he's hurt your guns less than Joe Biden plans to hurt your guns. I'll give you that all day long.
But if you don't believe the champion of the Second Amendment.
Yeah. But if you don't believe that Trump's hurt your guns, go try and buy a honey badger. Oh, wait, no. Turns out Trump's ATF decided that the honey badger pistol, which is freaking awesome, I have to point out, just saying, they decided that for no apparent reason, we decided that pistol is now a rifle. And we can't really tell you why. We just feel like it is. And so
just feels
retroactively, we're going to fine the company that made that gun $400 for every one that they've sold, even though we were totally
even though it was legal when it was.
We were approving tax stamps for them left and right for years. We didn't see a problem with our looking at it, but now we changed our mind, and now we decided that that's no good. I'm just saying, the shit's out there. You got to be paying attention, and we just keep getting more and more of the same shit. Now, you also run the risk you elect somebody like Biden, even if Trump's able to kind of pack the Supreme Court with more right-wing people. Well, you run the risk that you elect Biden, and he's going to go and make it so that the Supreme Court can have 20 people on there, and he can pick, 11 more of them. And then you're going to have people who think the way Joe Biden thinks for the next 30, 40 years.
Yeah, let's not forget that
you have consequences, but understand what you're voting for. You need to see what's out there, see what's going on, and pay attention. And, it's a personal decision, and you need to decide what's right and what's best for you. But just because somebody's a jackass, because there's some jackasses out there. Just because somebody's a jackass, you need to decide, hey, which one's going to affect my life more positive? And maybe it's just you need to vote for principles. Maybe you care about what you care about, and you're like Joe Jorgensen or somebody who's going to, more represent my values. And honestly, man, she seems more coherent than the other two, but I don't know. I mean, she's not the strongest candidate that I'd love to see in that direction either, Yeah.
Well, the truth is watching those debates really fucking turned me off to both of those guys.
Yeah.
Both of them, neither of them seem to be answering the questions that they were asked, and neither of them seem to have coherent statements to make. Even regarding things that didn't have to do with the question they were
even
asked.
In the vice president debate, it was that way. There was no question answering. There was no, coherency. It was really kind of ridiculous. It's really a sad state, the American political system. But, do what you got to do to protect what you got and to preserve your life as long as, and what I mean when I say preserve your life, I mean preserve your livelihood. Keep things going the way you want it to go for as long as you can. And, all we can do is the best we can. We can only vote for who's on the ballot. And, and like Kevin said, third party is on the ballot. I believe Joe Jorgensen's in every state. And shit, voting in protest is not wrong.
And, you can vote, you can write in whoever you want. If you want Chuck Jager to be president,
now that is a great idea.
Write his name in there. I'll vote for him.
You'll vote?
I can get behind that. I can get behind the Prepper Badass podcast party.
All right. See, I'm liking what you're saying here. I like what you're putting down. Maybe every year I should just vote for myself for, president, or every 4 years, turns out, but
right.
To each his own. No, but just, take it seriously. Do go out and vote. Vote for, what you believe is the right answer. Your vote does matter. I know you feel small and where Kevin is, you vote in New York. It's not going to be Trump winning in New York.
New York is voting for Joe Biden. It doesn't matter who doesn't matter what
Kevin does. So, whatever. But in a lot of places,
you're in Ohio or you're in Florida, it's really important that you get out there and make your voice heard, though.
And there's a lot of states that it's a big deal. More than you think. Trump won a lot of states that people wouldn't have thought would have gone Republican last time. And, and maybe some of those people regret that vote. But then again, what are you going to do? Vote for Hillary last time? I mean, there's not you don't
have a whole lot of good options.
I just saw one of the people that I don't know, a friend of my parents, somehow my friend on Facebook, and she's a social worker, if that maybe tells you her political views. And she was just posting something about how come nobody trusts scientists and lawyers and whatever, but they trust a reality TV star who lied about everything and is filled with scandal and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, they're all liars.
They are, right?
I mean, it's just like, all right, you can accept global warming or not and whatever. And I don't really care that much and whatever. You do what you got to do. I hate that everybody's decision is, well, the government will solve it and I'm not going to do anything to change my life. Then I don't take you seriously.
Right.
If you're like, let's just throw money at a problem, and I don't have any money to give, but those out there, evil people who have money, they're the ones who should pay to make all these sacrifices. And it turns out the sacrifices are just give money to politicians and then we'll solve all the global warming stuff and whatever. To me, that's a bunch of bullshit. But the problem is there's no consistency. It's, these are facts. This is going to happen. And then it doesn't. Or these are facts. This is what, we need to do right now. And if we don't, it's too late. Well, it's a fact that we didn't do any of that shit, but there's still time. Now it's a fact. We need to, when facts change every day, it's not science. And you can't tell me that it is. But does he talk like a freaking moron and say all kinds of stupid shit all day long? Yeah. And you're an idiot if you're in denial and you don't see that. Everybody who's like blindly obsessed with Trump, well, Trump may be the best choice with what you got, but that does not mean, and that's not exactly what I'm saying. I'm just saying, these things are possible for what you want, but you need to realize that, he has flaws. And if you are in denial that Trump has flaws, you have issues. And on the flip side, if you're in denial that Joe Biden has flaws or Kamala Harris has flaws, you're in denial and you're full of shit,
Right.
So, accept the world as it is. Look at the facts. Look at the outcome that you're going to get by the actions that you take, and then make your best informed choice and do what you can do,
And
how
plan
cool
on
would
taking
it be
care
if
of
Joe
yourself.
Jorgensen won New York?
Right. Be great.
Hey, that'd be pretty freaking awesome. It wouldn't, change things and whatever, but it would be awesome. Whatever. And I don't really see that happening, but hey, to each his own, right?
That's right. That's right. And if we learned anything from the last election, it's that we can't count on polls to be telling us who's going to win ahead of time. Yeah, you have to wait for the actual votes to come in.
I think that's right. And, definitely, I don't care who you're voting for, because like I said, I think everybody deserves a fair shot. And I think you need, as long as you think clearly about the outcomes that you want and the results you're going to get, then I say go vote for whoever you think is right and good for you. Just think about it, not just emotion and hate and whatever. Just think of the results you're going to get out of the candidate. And if that matches up what you think is best for this country And, even I hate to say it, best for your situation. I hope that what's best for the country is what's best for your situation. That would be great. But, you do what you got to do, that's the way I see it. But go out, vote that way. Don't listen to the shit of, well, the election's already decided. Don't go out and vote. Don't bother. It's already decided. We already know. Because, it's funny, like one of the big things that happened under Trump that threw everybody is a lot of times you have people who vote early in the day. It's usually more left leaning, and people who vote later in the evening end up being more right leaning. But again, it varies on state. Like where I am, you can vote early. It's funny. There was always so many polling stations in New York that I've never had to really wait to vote. You go, right. You might be there 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I've never understood like lines and stuff like that, for voting, Yeah. And now where I am, everybody's like, oh, make sure you do the early voting, because if you go on election day, you'll be there 4 or 6 hours. That's how it's been the last 3 elections. And I'm like, what? That can't be right. And I thought they were full of shit, especially I'm kind of in the country. And so I've been keeping an eye on people doing early voting, and no shit. The first day of early voting, they were telling me, oh, there was like 4-hour line, 5-hour line. And I'm like, how the fuck? So I'm like, all right, well, it's the first day of early voting, but there's voting Monday through Friday for like 4 or 5 weeks. And so it can't be that bad. And I'm like, all right, it's not going to be a big deal. I'm talking to people who went and voted Friday, and they're like, yeah, I was in line for 4 hours. And I'm like, holy shit, huh? We need to open more polling places, or, because if they didn't do the early voting, what the hell?
Yeah, no, it's the same thing here, man. Early voting is packed. They said there's a record number of people that have voted already compared to previous history. I think a lot of people are going to be voting compared to, most recent presidential elections. There's going to be more people. I think they say only 60% of voters typically vote. 60% of people registered to vote. I bet it's going to be higher than that this time.
I do. I believe that.
The thing is that when it comes to this sort of stuff, the presidential election really doesn't have a lot of effect on you. What really has an effect on you
your are senators, your congressmen, your governor, your sheriff,
your state council, your county council.
We did an episode on voting a little while back, and I got to say, I feel like we did a good job at talking about how that shit affects your life. And you may want to go check it out. And again, that's, like I said earlier, we try and bring the different perspective. It's not just, oh, Trump, Trump's not responsible for everything. Trump didn't put up the budget. Trump didn't, he doesn't choose what's spending and stuff like that. And honestly, if Congress had such a great idea with their stimulus shit and whatever, it would pass. And turns out they don't need the president to pass something. Turns out you can pass it. And if you have 2/3 or whatever, it doesn't matter what he thinks. They can still make shit happen. So put out some good ideas, and maybe you can make Trump impotent, with that kind of stuff. But if you don't have good enough ideas that people can get behind, and it is amazing that we are so divided as a country that every freaking senator and congressman seems to vote 100% in line with their party, It used to be like for show they would pretend like Republicans would care about, oh, we're anti-gun control. And then they would only vote for gun control if their vote actually made a difference. You know what I'm saying? And then they'd be like, well, I'm for gun control this one time, and then they would kind of screw you. Just like, oh, we're definitely going to get rid of Obamacare. Obamacare sucks. It's fucking horrible. If you elect us for the House and the Senate, we're going to fucking solve that shit. And we're going to fucking, go and, repeal it. And then they win the House and the Senate and the presidency. And then they're like, yeah, we just can't seem to do it. I don't know why. John McCain, you're retiring pretty soon. How about you vote against it? And we all be like, yeah, John McCain's evil. Now, John McCain is evil. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, it always seems to work that way. where big government just keeps growing and the machine keeps going. But the more you put the, people who represent your values in charge, then, hopefully you can get the country to sway in your direction. And, all we can do is the best we can and keep moving forward. So hate to make it a political show on you, but damn it, go out and buy a nice knife. Maybe a nice karambit. If you look at the karambit, watch some videos on how to use it properly. There are some really effective fighting techniques, but that is something you need to figure out a little style with. Right. But man, carrying a knife on your hip is not going to hurt you, and you're going to find that it pays off more often than not. So go out, buy a nice knife, and I hate to say it, the ugly secret is they can be as addictive as AR-15s. So
that's true.
Also, I still haven't shipped out the one, so it's coming, but don't panic yet. It's coming. For the guy who you guys probably didn't know, but if you go to preppingbadass.com, we have some cool t-shirts, fun stuff that you may be interested in. Support the Prepping Badass and, check out some cool gear. We did have a little contest where if you put up some pictures of you and your gear, you could win a badass Bowie knife that you could possibly carry under your sweatshirt or on your hip. And when a motherfucker tries to stab you, you just, whip it out, cut his throat, whatever.
Game over.
Game over.
Problem solved.
And, if they see the Prepping Badass logo on there, they're already going to know not to fuck with you. So
they're already going to have to fight with a load of shit in their pants. And you already got the advantage.
You got the advantage right there. So I'm just saying. And I will say, if you're interested in a Prepping Badass knife of your own, maybe I'll put up some pictures of the knives pretty soon. We might be able to work out some kind of sale. I'll see if I can figure out some pricing and some kind of way to do it. But I don't know about shipping them outside the country. I know a lot of you guys, our buddies out in Australia, would love a nice Bowie knife. And man, I'd send it to you for free because I love you guys. And you've been so great to, supporting this podcast out there. But damn, if I can't figure out how to do that shit without spending, $50 in shipping and taxes and bullshit and whatever. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. But, and if you know the way and can show me the instructions on how to get you a knife, we might be able to work out a nice deal. Hamish, I'm looking in your direction. Hamish may have given up on us. I don't think we hear from Hamish too often. Do you see much talk from Hamish, Kevin?
Oh, he's been around. He's been around.
All right.
Yep.
I feel like we don't see his comments as often, but maybe I'm not in the group as much.
I do want to say congratulations to Warren. Warren's getting married this week. Yep.
Oh, getting married.
Yeah. He's tying the knot.
Tying the knot. So now he's like a prepping team, a survival team. Now is he getting the wife to listen to the podcast? That's really where it starts.
I don't know about that.
That's how you build a solid. That's how you build a solid relationship, or it might expose his craziness. I think the trick is don't let her listen to it till after you're married.
Right. Wait until afterwards.
And then be like, hey, you want to know about this other side of me? And yeah, it turns out I'm crazy. But all right.
Yeah, that's really the game with dating, though, is you just don't let the other person know how crazy you are until after you.
Right.
Yeah. After you have a written contract that she can't leave, then you let the crazy out.
It's a binding contract. And not only it's witnessed by God. So, that's kind of a, it's hard for them to back out. We'll pretend that anyway, that it's hard for them to back out. I know what really happens in America. But anyway, with that, stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
The Survival and Basic Badass Podcast is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.
Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.